Welcome into another edition of the Charleston County Connects podcast. I'm your host, Sean Smetana, and two guests today. Our coroner, Bobbi Jo O'Neill. Welcome.
Thank you.
We also have Beth Vassy from MUSC Pediatric Injury Prevention Coordinator. Welcome to you as well.
Thank you.
We have a very sensitive and important subject to talk about today, and October is Sudden Infant Death Syndrome Awareness Month, as well as Safe Sleep Month. Bobbi Jo, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
It's an important awareness a month because this is something that if the community works together, we can really prevent. Why such an important thing for you as the coroner of Charleston County?
Yeah, I've had the unfortunate distinction of having to work the deaths of many, many children in Charleston County. I've been with the office since 1998, and during that time, we have really seen lots of children under the age of 1 who have died in really preventable situations. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, as someone who has to see that and the heartbreak of that a loss of a child not only impacts the immediate family, but their surrounding family, their community, the school as a whole. It just impacts our whole community. And we can gauge sometimes the health of the community by how well they take care of their children. And so what we've seen over the years is, unfortunately, a lot of risk factors as to things that families do when they think they're doing good and to try to make a soft place for a baby to sleep. They think they're making it beautiful and lovely and all of those things to welcome that bundle of joy that just came home. And sometimes unknowingly, they're putting them at great risk. And so what we want to do during SIDS Awareness Month and also during Safe Sleep Awareness Month for children is to provide information about what we're seeing. And my hope is that the citizens here in Charleston County don't meet me while I'm working. Yes. They don't meet my team while we're working, that we would rather meet in a public setting and community setting and an event. And so my goal is to try to prevent as many deaths as we can by, unfortunately, telling you what we see. Telling you those risk factors, and hopefully we're going to save a child or 2 or 3. We'll never know how many, but hopefully we're going to save some children based on some practical safety tips that we've learned over the years.
And it's great you have such a great working relationship with MUSC, because I think what you alluded to there is it's really a lot of it's about education. And Beth can take us from there. What do you see with new parents when they're trying to figure out how to create a safe sleeping environment for their child?
A lot of times parents don't even realize that a safe sleep environment is just as important as, say, a car seat. They don't understand because social media has had its way of showing people things that may not be exactly what we would want. Lots of times I'm on social media as well as many of us are. And a lot of times, influencers and things like that post these pictures or these videos of their own cribs. These famous people post these things, and they are packed with things that shouldn't be in there. But because it's, aesthetically pleasing, they think it's going to be more comfortable for baby. They don't even realize that what they're doing is putting their child at harm. They don't realize that the things that they're putting in that crib could ultimately be the reason that their baby is no longer here. So it's really important that we talk about what is out there versus what we know as providers and healthcare employees, so that we can kind of make sure that we're getting the education out to the people who just see the mass media things, who get posted in magazines and on our social media sites and, all of that stuff, because unfortunately, that's not real life. That's not how things actually go. So it's important that we talk about what we actually see versus what's seen for the regular public.
What should be in the crib?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing but baby. So baby should be in there alone, a plain pacifier, a flat, firm mattress, and a fitted sheet. That's it. That's all it should be. Baby in a swaddle. Other than that, there should be nothing else.
And unfortunately, what we tend to see when we have infant deaths that occur in Charleston County, oftentimes we'll see a sleep setting, whether that's a crib, a pack and play, or sometimes they'll actually co-sleep in an adult bed or on a couch. And those are not made for children. And what we'll see inside the crib is lots of pillows and lots of blankets and stuffed animals that look really cute. But the problem with babies, especially when they're young, is that they can't protect their airway. So they don't have the ability to raise their head or lower their head. They don't have the ability to push up and get themselves out of a trapped situation, if you will. And they can't roll over. They can't move from their stomach to their back or from their back to the front. And so I'm sure many people over the years heard, put your baby on their back to sleep. And the reason is that there was some concern that babies on their face down, that they get their face caught in a pillow or under a blanket, and that they may be rebreathing carbon dioxide, which can be fatal. The key is that it's not a safe location for them. So babies can't protect themselves. They can't protect their airway. So we got to protect it for them. And the way to do that is have them in their own sleep space on a firm surface, a firm mattress, and nothing else in there. Put the stuffed animal on the dresser, put the comfy blanket somewhere else, dress them in the clothes that you think is appropriate for their temperature, and keep all of that away from them to make sure that as they scoot around in that crib, that if they're face down and they get caught in a corner, that they may very likely get caught where they're not able to breathe appropriately.
That's a really good point, too. With infants, also with very young infants, they don't have purposeful movement. So although you may have seen a blanket get over a baby's face and they move it with their hand, that was not intentional. They did not mean to move it. They did not know that that's what they needed to do. So we have to protect them because they can't make those purposeful movements. So just because you've seen them do it once or twice, especially for the very young infant, does not mean that they actually know that they have to do that in a situation. That means you caught them doing it when they just happen to be moving that way anyways.
So you brought up the sleeping on your back or sleeping on your stomach. Is that something, should it be intentional for parents to try to sleep them one way or the other?
Yes.
Okay.
So they should always sleep on their backs.
Always
Babies
sleep
should
on their
always,
backs.
for naps and for bedtime, they should always be placed on their backs for sleep.
Yep. And then when they're awake, there should be tummy time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so a baby shouldn't be on their back all the time, 24 hours a day. But when they are in their main sleep time, that they should be placed on their back to sleep. And again, with nothing else around them protective that can stop their airway and block their airway. The other thing I would sort of say that we see lots of times is, again, this co-sleeping or bed sharing where baby is in bed with adult people or other children or pets. And that's also really dangerous, even if they're placed on their back. So sometimes we'll see that they think, well, they're on their back, but they're in our adult bed, our king-size bed with all of our comforts or our pillows and the dog and everyone, and they think that now that baby's on their back, they're okay. But the problem is just like Mary Beth said, things can come over them, and they don't know to move things away from their airway. They don't know to do that. And so there's great risk that we have an accidental, what we call asphyxia, where they can't breathe, or a suffocation. Again, doesn't mean it's intentional, but that things can block the airway. And so being in an adult bed is not appropriate for little ones, especially under the age of 1. We want them in their own safe sleep location that's designated for them.
And even if the crib is in the parent's room, that's okay.
Yes, we love to say, share your room, not your bed. That's one of my favorite slogans,
Yep.
Share your room, not your bed. You are welcome to have the crib in your room. You're welcome to have a bedside bassinet, as long as you are continually putting baby in there when baby is sleeping and while you are sleeping. As long as they are in that separate area, that's great. It is perfectly fine to share a room. We just don't want them in that adult bed that's not designed for them and that has things that could potentially be hazardous to them.
And swaddling, I know some parents like to swaddle because when your kid's at the hospital, he looks like a little burrito. So swaddling, no issues with that?
So swaddling is fine. Specifically now, we've kind of been moving towards not using blankets to swaddle, just plain blankets. Mm-hmm. The reasoning for that is that those blankets can come untucked, especially with those babies' movements that, again, aren't intentional, but, they're always wiggling and moving. So we're kind of moving away from that blanket swaddle and moving towards those swaddles that may have Velcro or something on them, just to protect that child from accidentally getting out of it or unraveling that blanket and it becoming something that they can be suffocated with.
If new parents especially have questions about this sorts of thing, what resources are going to be available for them to look it up and talk to people face-to-face or online, however?
That's a great question. So I work at the Children's Hospital, so I'm always available by phone or email. You guys are welcome to call, text me, whatever. I'll be happy to answer questions as I can. The Consumer Product Safety Commission is always a great place to go as well. They will certify that the cribs are under the current safety standards. So they will have some sort of seal on your cribs or bassinets that say that they're part of that. Other than that, I think it's just doing some research and making sure you can get it from reputable sources. There's tons of mom groups that have blogs and things, and while it may work for one parent and they may have gotten lucky and not had an unsafe sleep death, it is truly luck. And we don't want anyone else following that because it does pose such a significant risk. So make sure where you're getting your information is a reputable source for sure.
Yeah, I just want to say that sometimes what we see, unfortunately, in the coroner's office is where a mom is breastfeeding in an adult bed, and then they all fall asleep. And that a crisis happens when they're doing something that's very maternal and very appropriate for a newborn, but they don't place them back in their own sleep surface. And the other thing sometimes is sort of a miscommunication or understanding is that oftentimes I'll hear those who do bed share and co-sleep, that's where they bond, and that the only time that we see deaths was when there's drugs and alcohol involved. And I can tell you that's not the case. Mommies are tired.
Yes.
New mommies are tired. New daddies are tired.
Yes.
And so even though they may think that they're always going to wake up and that they know when the baby moves and they cry, I can tell you that many times that doesn't happen. And so we don't want them to be the next family. And again, take the information, research it, make sure that you're seeing both sides of the information, and then make the right decision for your family. But again, you don't want to meet me while I'm working. And what we see over and over and over again is babies in unsafe sleep settings, whether they're cribs or bassinets that are full of toys or blankets. They're in adult beds that are inappropriate for a little one, and we have a suffocation, usually accidental, or they're in another setting where they don't have the ability to move and get out of that unsafe that space. And
Absolutely.
so have them in their own space where they, we know they're safe. Let's get them older, and then they can sleep in your bed all they want.
Yes, absolutely.
I think you guys both hit on a key point here. It's about getting information from the right source.
Yes.
So there is lots of information everywhere, but let's go to the experts and get the right information.
Yes.
We'll put contact information for MUSC and some of their programs in the description for this episode. Final question, though. We discussed this a little bit. It's called SIDS, but there is sort of a movement to kind of not rebrand, but kind of refocus what that actually is. And can you weigh in on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So we're moving away from the SIDS terminology in regards to just thinking about this as like a SIDS awareness month. So we're including the Safe Infant Sleep now. We're moving more towards an acronym called SUIDS, and it's sudden unexpected infant death. SUIDS do encompass our SIDS still. However, it also encapsulates our accidental suffocation and strangulation in bed, which we call ASSB. Those are going to be our unsafe sleep situations, and also our unknown or undetermined for any child less than 1. So we kind of have this group now where we look at all of the things and kind of separate them out. And it's been interesting that once we've started to move to this new like SUID style looking at things, we've actually seen the rate of SIDS go down, which that's wonderful. Everybody's talking about it. However, one thing that we have noticed is while SIDS is going down, accidental suffocation and strangulation in bed and unknown undetermined are increasing still. So just because SIDS is going down doesn't mean that we're not seeing these deaths. It just means they might be getting classified as something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Mary Beth, thank you very much for the expertise. Bobbi Joe, thank you very much for bringing this issue up. It's important for the whole community, as you mentioned.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.